We hear horror stories, but what are the actual consequences of leaving Islam?
I saw people being beaten to death. There will be a whole crowd and they'll just burn you. And that's when 9/11 happened. And everyone was cheering. The whole bloody school. And I was like, these are not my people. What the fuck is going on? You have to be a bad Muslim if you're a good person. You have to ignore Islam.
Are there many gay men amongst Muslims?
They end up sucking each other's dicks, but they don't see it as a gay thing.
Get that dick out your mouth.
It's not even a matter of the dick or the sucking.
What's all this virgin talk?
Can you be a Muslim and be loyal to Britain? I doubt it. A lot of people need to be deported. A lot of them. Those who are born here as well.
Shamima Begum, should she be allowed back in the UK?
Everything in the Quran is a justification of his mental disorder, basically. I'm dead. My family is crying. The story will be, let's not get angry at the Muslims. And that pisses me off. Why do the British people hate their own so much that they're willing to sacrifice their future for these foreigners? Have some balls, leave Islam.
And do you think one day you could be murdered?
I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, Gold Seal. I use their products every single day, and now I finally get to work with them. I use their products for anti-inflammatory, reduced anxiety, better sleep, and mental clarity. I'm going to put a link to their website in the description, along with a 10% discount code for you to take advantage of. Go and have a look at their website, see if there's anything in there for you. I hope you enjoy this week's episode, and good health.
Momus, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. I've been very keen to speak to an apostate, somebody that's left Islam. So you were born into Islam from a Muslim family. You've come out with some outlandish comments. And just so you know as well, this is a free speech platform as far as we're concerned. YouTube may or may not like some of the things you say, but don't let that hold you back, because I like people when they're here opposite me to be completely and utterly authentic. Let's touch base on your back, because obviously I want to know how life has been before and after.
Yeah.
Give me a little bit on your background. I know that you lived in Kuwait to start with, then Pakistan, and then the UK. So your childhood in Kuwait, run me through that.
Yeah, born in late 80s in Kuwait. Pretty fun place at that time, I would say. It was till the Gulf War happened. I was 4 years old when the Gulf War happened. Before that, I think so, my childhood was pretty good. And after that as well, I think so. But during that time, being 4 years old, seeing war was pretty heavy. You know, seeing dead bodies, seeing tanks, and seeing your parents being vulnerable, unable to protect you, sort of a thing, So we, as a family, didn't leave. We were given choice to take refuge in Jordan, because I was in Kuwait. So we were given choice to take refuge in Jordan or in Saudi Arabia till the problem was resolved. My parents and my mom's family, because they were there as well, we had a huge family over there. They thought it's never going to happen. Saddam Hussein is never going to come into Kuwait. It's never going to happen. So they didn't go where everyone else went. And then it was 6 months later when one day my mom woke up, went downstairs and outside, and there were tanks rolling on the road. And being my mom, she was like, what the fuck are you guys doing over here? And they were like, oh, we're Iraqis, right? And we've conquered Kuwait. We've come to conquer Kuwait now. Now go back, to your flat. So that was okay, we left it a bit too late, and Jordan had closed their borders. Saudi Arabia had closed its borders. There was no flight going in or out, because obviously, that's what happens. That was a pretty, I remember moments of it, even though I was only 4 years old, but that sort of impacts you, right? It shapes you. And obviously I wasn't aware of religion or anything. It wasn't a huge part, just 4 years old, right? And I remember moments. I remember my mom, she had issues mental breakdowns,
PTSD.
Yeah, while it was happening. So what happened was, where we were living, we didn't have a bunker in our apartments and stuff. So we had to move away to my dad's friend's apartment who had a bunker. Right. So I hate the sound of air raids, because that's when it used to happen. Air raids would happen. You have this much time, go rush in, everyone go in the bunker. There were a lot of people in there because it was bunker. And my mom, I remember her like having a bit of a mental breakdown, she would start counting, right? As in like she's counting dead bodies or something like that. So it projected on other people as well. And I remember it like, them trying to calm her down and stuff. But, those stuff sort of happens, and we had to actually travel because we decided we had to leave because my mom, my parents are from Pakistan. My dad was living over there since he was 18 years old. But that's the only place they could take refuge, go back to Pakistan. The only way was to travel by road.
From Kuwait?
Yeah. So
Wow.
they went from Kuwait back into Iraq, who was actually attacking us, snake all the like around the border of Iraq into Turkey, from Turkey to Iran, then Iran to Pakistan. It took like 1.5 months or 2 months. Because obviously in the middle, the bank accounts are closed. You can't access money. People don't have money now anymore, right? So you're staying in your car or you're finding some place to live or stuff. We had like 10, 12 cars, like as a, we were going as a group. They were like parts of a family, friends and stuff, So my dad's car got taken away at the checkpoint on Kuwait to Iraq, at the first checkpoint. So we went in my dad's friend's car because he was alone.
Okay.
So we all went with him and stuff, but we had to obviously lose a lot of stuff that we were carrying, food and stuff like that, because obviously it was his things with him. But because he didn't have a driving license, right? Because he used to drive, but bit like me and those times. But he didn't have a license and stuff, so it was easy to confiscate his car, and he had a very nice car and stuff. So they took it away from him, and they did that to a lot of people, right? So there was already like the start of it was already crap, right? But I think so, and like a lot of people still stayed in Kuwait. They still didn't leave.
Why did people stay?
They had nowhere to go. They had places to go, but they had nowhere. Like if they were going back to India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, wherever the fuck they were from, right? If they had to go back over there, they didn't have anything.
And how old would you have been by this stage?
4, still 4. Yeah, 4 years
So
old.
you left Kuwait for Pakistan when you were 4?
Yeah. So all the way we traveled and stuff. There were a lot of Iraq was the worst place to travel to because I remember we had to sleep on the road. Right, so I remember, you sleeping on the road, and Iraqi tanks were like just going by your head, because there was no other way. Because you can't travel to Iraq in a day; it takes a while, right? Especially when you don't have money for petrol and stuff like that. How do you do it then? So you have to get money from people or use all your money. They used all their money till they ended up in Turkey, I think so. And then there was a lot of Turkish people who helped the Pakistanis and stuff, so they gave them money. So to be able to buy food, and they gave them food and stuff so they could go into Iran. Iran was like, I think the worst part was Iran, because they were like, they charged twice as much to the refugees. Everything, they're dickheads, because they don't get along with Pakistanis. So that happened. And then we went to Pakistan. Obviously, my dad used to work on like big mainframes. At that time, they weren't supercomputers, they were mainframes, right? They used to fill the whole warehouses, that sort of, computers and stuff. Pakistan had no concept of that. So he had no work over there. So we had to like live somehow in Pakistan. And then he got, Americans came, saved Kuwait, drove out Saddam Hussein and his forces. Then everyone started coming back, and he got a job at that time in the government. And so he came back. And then he called us back within 6 months. So, and then I lived over in Kuwait till I was 15.
And when you were in Kuwait, do Kuwaitis look at foreigners and say, bloody foreigners coming over here, taking our jobs?
Yeah.
It's the same everywhere then?
It's not the same, I would say. Like they are pretty damn racist. Like they have a next level, right, of racism. Because in Arab, right, in Arab people have this arrogance, and they say, Ana Arabi, which means I am an Arab, right? Kuwaitis have that much of an arrogance. They say, Ana Kuwaiti. So I'm even more than an Arab. Right?
Top Arab.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what they like to think of themselves. Whether that's true or not, that's debatable. But that's their sort of attitude. But obviously they need people to work for them because they're given so much money by the government and stuff. I don't know what it's like right now. This is like when I was there in the 90s and stuff. The government give so much of the oil profits and stuff to the citizens, and this is why I never got a nationality as well, because they don't give nationality to foreign people, whether they're born over there or not. I was born there, my sister was born there. They don't give nationalities, so you have to be from a Kuwaiti tribe which they are prescribed tribes
Right.
from those families, right? And they have grading within their nationality system as well, because they have to give oil profits to people. So they can't just give nationality to anyone. And they're a small country, so they'll be overpopulated. And then this way they can kick people out easily.
We've all noticed that Muslim countries such as Dubai, Kuwait, that they're not taking illegal migrants like the UK are. So
No, they don't,
that's noticeable. That would just be a zero tolerance policy for them.
Yeah. And even like if you commit a crime or something, they'll catch you and they'll just blacklist you. They'll just throw you away. No questions asked.
And is it still that way now?
Yeah, it's always been and it still is. And I think so that's the same in every Arab country, which nobody likes to talk about, even in Dubai, right? If you're done with your work, you don't have a work permit or anything. I don't know how it works in Dubai, but in Kuwait, it definitely works like that. You don't have a work permit, you fuck off. The reason why I left Kuwait when I was 15 was because my sister was like 2 years older than me. She had to go to uni, right? But she was coming up to the point and I was going to come up to the point of being 18. So after 18, if you're not working, then you no longer can live in Kuwait.
What part was Islam playing in your life? Because a lot of people talk about Islam, but I've never met anybody that actually was a Muslim talk about Islam in the way that I suspect you will because you left it.
Yeah.
So let's focus more on that. But so tell me about Pakistan, because you said it was a shithole.
So if I had stayed in Kuwait, right, because I didn't feel it towards me, right, personally and stuff. Because my dad had like a lot of Kuwaiti friends and Arab friends and stuff, so it was fine. If I had stayed in Kuwait, I might not have left Islam, because that's how low grade Islam is over there. That's how it's there, but it's fine, right? So like Saudi women would come to Kuwait so that they can, don't have to wear hijab and stuff like that, because that's not a thing in Kuwait. It's not mandatory and stuff like that. Right? It's very relaxed, it's very Americanized. So it's like Dubai, but even better than Dubai in that sense, because it's such a small country, no one cares what people do over there, right? But when I went to Pakistan is when I started seeing the true faces of not just Islam, but what Islam does to a culture, a bigger culture, where people are not educated, right? High percentage of people are not educated. They're not just not educated, they're not even literate, right? The literacy rate is very low in Pakistan. They don't even know how to read or write their names. That's how you check literacy of a person, right? So what Islam does in that context, in that culture and stuff, so even if you have pockets of educated people, they can't sustain their ecosystem that well, because they're dependent on the huge mob outside that can at any time, at any small inference, they can attack you and they can kill you, right? This has happened over time. You heard like there was a politician who just said something that might not be like in keeping with Islam or whatever. His own bodyguard killed him. So it took me a while to find those people who were like-minded, who were agnostic, or after I got out of Islam and stuff, or even who were Muslims, were not radicals and stuff like that.
Was you living like a staunch Muslim up until the time you left
No,
Islam?
but I was a good practicing Muslim in the sense of how my parents brought me up.
And were your parents both solid Muslims?
Yeah. But not like, not hijabis and stuff. Like they weren't being, like my mom never did, and my dad wasn't like that as well, like in all the garb or anything like that. He was just like, they were just normal. And they just observed religion, and their thinking still is, religion is personal to you. So it's your personal connection to God, how you interact with him, whatever. So with them, you can talk about ideology being incorrect, which I usually do. So if I say anything against Islam, it's mostly against Islam rather than Muslims and stuff, because Muslims can be converted, sort of thing. But in Pakistan, what I found was no matter what happens, right, just a little equilibrium is shifted, just a little bit, and it's chaos.
In what sense, chaos?
Mobs attacking people and stuff, like, someone just saying, oh, if I have a problem with you, right, I'll say, oh, I heard Liam say like shit about Muhammad, and there will be a whole crowd and they'll just burn you. They'll just burn you on the fucking... I saw people being beaten to death.
Because they criticised Muhammad?
Yeah, it was suspected. I don't even know if they said that.
Okay.
Right? So if you're standing over there, you're seeing a person being beaten to death. Beaten to death, it takes a lot of time, lots of pain, lots of hurt, and you can't do anything. You literally can't do anything. The police can't do anything.
And is it all publicly done?
Yeah. And then they all just go.
And is this what put you off Islam?
So I was 15, around 15. That was the year after, or even that year when I moved to Pakistan. And that's when 9/11 happened. Right, 9/11 happened. We got to school and we had an assembly where, like, you know, all the kids from the school are there, like, and the principal is there, and they do whatever they do. And the principal of the school led the cheers that the attack has happened and we have attacked the enemy, right? So now, knowing that there were innocent people that died, right, and it wasn't an army attacking an army, and here is the principal of the whole bloody school leading the cheers, and everyone was cheering. And I was just standing there and I was looking around, and I was like, these are not my people. Like, I cannot associate what the fuck is going on. And I was only 15 years old, and that sparked me. It's like, okay. Then I went a bit deeper in Islam. I was like, you know what? They are not practicing the real Islam. They are not really Muslims, because if they are Muslims, how can they celebrate innocent people dying, right? So then started my journey, sort of like a 6-year journey of leaving Islam, because I had no incentive to leave Islam. Like, you know, my life was fine. Even if I didn't pray, if I prayed, like, you know, we were well off. Like, it didn't matter to me. I'll still get ahead in life, like, you know. But the more that I started looking into it, right, the more first I went like very staunch Muslims, like, okay, no, I'll go to prayer every day, like, you know, I'll become a good Muslim, I'll show them how to be a good Muslim and stuff. And then I realized, like, no, the religion is corrupt. This is a corrupt coding in the religion. It will always lead to this event. Just the reason why it's leading right now in my lifetime in Pakistan rather than in Kuwait is not because in Kuwait there's a better version of Islam. It's because Kuwaitis are prosperous. Right? They have money, right? Not because they're practicing some other Islam. They're ignoring Islam because they have money, their lives are better. The moment that goes to shit over there, they'll return to the same thing. And how I extrapolated that was because my mom and dad used to tell me that Pakistan was pretty free before General Zia came in the 70s and put Sharia law into the Pakistani Penal Code. Pakistan Penal Code was based on English common law, and they practice English common law in Pakistan up until that point. So they used to tell me that before that time, Pakistan was pretty nice to live. Even had bars, we had like pubs and stuff, like, you know, beach going and stuff like that. It was pretty, like, you know, how they show you pictures of Afghanistan before women were free, like, you know, hair out and whatever. So it was like that Pakistan, like a lot better. But when things gone to shit, right, everyone went back to that, you know, that version of Islam, that true version of Islam, which is violent and stuff. And that's what I saw, like, what's happening right now in Dubai, because people say, oh, look at Dubai, like, you know, the Muslims are so good over there, like, but you don't know how they're keeping that. They're keeping that by really strict laws. Do we want that much laws over here to restrict our liberties? Just so that we can accommodate these radical Muslims, right? But the moment it goes to shit over there, right? The moment, like, if all their finances goes to shit, it's not as if like they're still going to remain that peaceful, are they? They're not going to remain that peaceful. And that's what right now we're seeing this transformation in Saudi Arabia, where they're becoming better and better and better. We always think like Saudi Arabia, like, people are very rich. The elites are rich. Like, people are not that rich in there, right? So, but now they're becoming richer and richer and richer, and you see they're moving toward modernity. But this is a blip in time, right? When there's a blip in time of the Ottoman Empire when they were doing good, then they became a little bit moderate.
How did life change when after you left Islam, and also what are the consequences? Like the actual, we hear horror stories, but what are the actual consequences of leaving Islam?
An Islamic government is supposed to put that person to death.
An Islamic government?
No, government.
Oh, government.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. The government are supposed to kill you if you leave Islam.
Yeah, the government is supposed to kill you.
Of the country that you're living in.
Yeah, exactly. And they usually don't do that. because they don't want that headache and stuff. And there's lots of proving and stuff that goes on. So it's very rare that happens. So people take it upon themselves to do it. And when people take it upon themselves to do it, the police officers and stuff, they are usually unable to do anything about it, because there's two competing laws, especially in Pakistan. There's two competing laws that is happening. There's Sharia law and there's Pakistani law, and they're trying to mix those laws together. If people are on Sharia law and they try to prove something on Sharia law, the court can't really say no to that, because that would mean that they are kafirs themselves, right? So it's a bit of a fucked up thing. But within the religion itself, that's what you're supposed to do.
Is there countries that are worse than others? Say, for example, in Pakistan, what's the percentage of Muslims in that country that would want you dead for leaving?
In this country, there's 70% of Pakistani Muslims that would agree killing ex-Muslims, right?
In the UK?
Yeah, exactly. So if you take it to Pakistan, I'll bet like 90%. I don't know. I don't think so. There's a polling that has been done, so you can't really, judge that. If I was in my that middle class sort of group of people who are like more educated and stuff, maybe only 10% would agree with that. But it depends. But Pakistani's population is 230 million plus people, so and most of them are illiterate, like I told you, and uneducated. So they would agree with whatever the Sharia law tells them to agree with, right? And the Sharia law says to kill the apostates, so obviously they will agree to kill the apostates. Otherwise, they will themselves are apostates.
Do you think a lot of people remain Muslim out of fear then, if that's the case?
Yeah. So this was the thing, right? So if I stayed in Pakistan, I could still stay in Pakistan. I had a lot of friends who were apostates. They never went to mosque. Whenever they were Friday prayers, they were hidden somewhere in their homes and stuff, so nobody knows where they are, right? But they just didn't tell anyone that they were apostates, and they lived their life.
Right.
So I could live a very lavish life, because as soon as I was going to leave uni, I already had jobs lined up and stuff, very high jobs and stuff, because I knew people wanted me in politics and stuff straight away, So I could have lived a life just faking it. But that just wasn't me. I had principles. On my principle, I was like, I just can't do it. I can't live a lie, even though I have to go away and live a shittier life than I have now.
Is Islam a faith, ideology, or religion?
In a way, religions are an ideology anyways. But I think so Islam is more a political ideology, an ideology of victimhood, I would say, based on victimhood, the original communists, than anything else. I think so. It's a very much of a political ideology that masquerades as a religion, because it doesn't have that much spirituality within the religion. You really can't have that much spirituality if you're saying, if you leave my club, I'm gonna kill you. Right? So if you're using force to keep people in your club, that means like there's something wrong in your club, right? That people want to leave. They don't, what's the problem? Like, why do you want to kill them? Why don't you convince them to come back? And there are some Dawa boys that do that, like, we're going to convince them to come back. But it doesn't work. Once you actually leave Islam, I've never heard of anyone going back.
How easy is it to become radicalized if you're a Muslim?
Oh, very easy.
Why is that?
Because it's a manual. The religion itself, the Quran, the Hadiths, and everything, the religion itself is a manual to become radical, right? And this is not radical for the good, right? Because Christianity, when it came, it was a radical religion for the good. This is a radical as in terrorism sort of a thing. It's a manual for it. Like, it's so easy. You have to work extra hard as a Muslim to not be radical, right? It's the other way around in like Christianity or any other religion. You actually have to work really hard, go really deep in your resentments to become radical, right? In Christianity or Judaism or whatever. In Islam, it's you have to do the other way around. So you have to be a bad Muslim if you're a good person. You have to ignore Islam. Right? So a lot of people say, oh, they are good Muslims. No, they're not good Muslims. The only good Muslims are Taliban, right? And all the people like them.
So here's something you'll be able to give me an insight into. So recently in the UK, we've had an Islamic terrorist. He's been sent to jail because he was part of the arrangement of the Manchester bombings. So he's in jail for the rest of his sorrowful life, let's hope. But he's an Islamist. He's a terrorist. He's in jail. So He's not been put in solitary confinement. He's been given privileges. He was given canteen duty and he was allowed in general pop. And the long and short of it is he ended up stabbing 3 prison officers multiple times and throwing hot oil over them, disfiguring them for life. Now, what motivates a terrorist to do that kind of thing? What's the driving force? Why do they do that?
You're the enemy. They're fighting for the Ummah. The Ummah is everything. It's the Muslim Ummah. And no matter which country they are, they're part of one country, the Islamic country in their head, right? Now, people have mental issues, right? Whether they are Muslims or whatever religion they are, right? But their religions don't give them an excuse to exercise their mental issues unless you're in the woke category these days, right? But they don't give you exercise to, go ahead with your mental issues. Islam does. Islam plays on the resentment. Islam plays on the victimhood of people. It tells them, oh, you are being oppressed and stuff. It's the first religion that does that, right? It started from Muhammad. When Jews would not accept him as a prophet, he played the victimhood card. Oh, they're being discriminatory towards me. And then that's how he motivated people, right? The main motivating force in Islam is victimhood. It tells them, look, the whole world is against you. So you have to fight them, right? And then you add on things on top of things about their, all their rules and regulations within Islam. It just makes them a radical. So it would tell them, if you're not, let's say someone said something against Muhammad, right? They have to do it because according to their own teachings, if they don't do it, they might themselves go to hell.
They'll want to seek revenge even if it's 20, 30 years later, like we've seen with Salman Rushdie recently.
Funny thing is the Pakistanis are still seeking revenge for what happened in the Crusades. In their mind, what happened thousands of years ago, they're still seeking. It's a collective memory for them. It's like a hive. They think from that same mentality.
Why do you think Islam's become so popular in the UK, especially amongst young men?
It's an easy way to radicalize people. Why did woke become so popular? It's a ideology of victimhood.
So do you feel a lot of people in the UK, youngsters, feel suppressed, so they lean into Islam?
They feel they're being oppressed or whatever,
Ignored.
or the system is against them, they're ignored, they have resentments building up. So it's easy for a woke ideology or a communist ideology, especially communism does that, or Islam, to say, okay, it takes you away from your personal responsibilities, right? So a good Christian would tell them, the shit that's happening in your life is because you're not taking responsibility in your life. So take your personal responsibility and social responsibility, right? But something like Islam will tell them, oh, the shit that's happening in your life is because of the Jews, right? Or because of the Jews and Yahuds, whatever, and they are doing it against you. You can't beat them. And this is the same ideology that the far right uses, that the far left uses, that the Islam uses. If it wasn't Islam, it would be something else, right? It's the easiest way to get kids on your side. It's what Hitler used as well, right? The Hitler Youth Movement. You play on people's resentment and you radicalize them. This is why it's becoming popular in UK.
And what do they do? Do they create an enemy that isn't an enemy?
They don't have to create an enemy. The enemies are already there because Islam is the ultimate enemy of the entire world. So obviously everyone else is a natural enemy to someone who wants to destroy and conquer the whole world, right? So it's easy then. So if you went out tomorrow and you said, you know what, I want to destroy England and I want to take over England. I'm going to kill everyone or convert them to Tuffism and I'll conquer it, right? Instantly the whole of England becomes your enemy.
Right.
So there's a truth in there that they are your enemy. But for what reason? Because you were being a dickhead.
Right.
They missed that part out.
Who invented the word Islamophobia? I mean, going by what you've told me, if I was to ask why did they do that, it's because they thrive off victimhood. But who invented Islamophobia?
I think so. It was the Iranians. It's pretty evident that Islamophobia itself was created by the Islamist. Then it was given to the liberals in the minds of the liberals and the liberal Muslims as well. Exaggerating what has happened to them, so if Islamists do an attack a terror attack, it's natural that the people in that area would be a bit off-put by even the normal Muslim. That would happen, like, let's say someone wearing a cross, bombed like the Manchester Arena. So if a priest was going by or stuff, or the priest was going right after that and telling people to come to church, there would be some resentments. People would more likely say, go fuck yourself, right? So they play on these things. They say, okay, see, the moment something bad happened, and look what they're doing to you. You are a good Muslim. You're working in the government. You're helping them. You're a politician or whatever. But they turn against you.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how they handed that Islamophobia. They created the Islamophobia. They sat on it for a while. And then they handed it over to the liberals. And the woke liberals took it over. As usual, they are the useful idiots for everything.
Yeah, that's interesting. What's the most precious thing to a Muslim? Is it Allah? Is it Muhammad? Or is it Islam?
Is themselves. It's like the Viking, right? Like, yeah, to the Viking, Valhalla was the most thing, but them achieving Valhalla was the most important thing. To a Muslim, it's sort of like them achieving heaven is the most important thing. So they're very self-oriented. Like, they're very, like, in that way, they're very selfish and stuff. They're not looking for some spiritual, like, like something like that. They're very materialistic. They're very, they want this. Even the concept of heaven is very materialistic. Oh, if you go to heaven, you'll get 70 virgins, this and that. Like, there will be rivers of milk or whatever. The God has to entice you by materialistic things, right?
Right.
That's not the case in Christianity. Your reward is going to heaven. Yeah.
Whenever there's a terror attack, for example, an Islamic terror attack, you always see online, particularly on X, the call for moderate, good Muslims to denounce the radicals. I'm yet to see any of that, let alone a great deal. So do the moderate Muslims denounce the radical Muslims privately?
Most definitely. They would privately, right? But there is a concept of munafiq within Islam. Munafiq means a hypocrite. Munafiq is a person who says they follow, it means hypocrite. So they say they follow Islam, but they don't follow everything of Islam. That would be your moderate Muslim these days, right? Allah says in the Quran, and He's saying it to Muhammad, and it's in the Surah of Munafiqeen. It's about the Munafiqs. And He says to Muhammad, you may be able to forgive them, but I will never forgive them. So Allah is saying to the Prophet that I will never forgive the Munafiqs, right? So there's a huge danger outing yourself as a Munafiq. Right? You know in your heart that what the Taliban are doing, what the terrorists are doing is a form of war. It's justified through Islam. Are you going to come out and go against it that openly? Especially if you have the backing of, that's why they're wishing that Saudi Arabia takes more of a lead in this. If they don't have the backing of a government and they're inside that government, they can't do that. And even then there's a problem. There's a lot of people in Saudi Arabia who are against their new king, like their crown prince, who's going to be the king. Right. There has been so many death threats against him. There has been so many attempts at his deaths because they think like he's disrespecting the Prophet because he's saying most of the hadiths cannot be true, right? So I'm saying that to explain there's a huge, there's more of a danger for moderate Muslims to come out against the other Muslims because A, there's a concept of munafiqs. B, they don't know Islam that much themselves. Most of these Muslims are not even Muslims because they're like drinking, eating, pork or whatever, And C is, they'll be outed from their own families and from their own circles and stuff. Right? So they're ostracized from their whole community and stuff. So they have that danger. And that's when you have to kind of think, can you be a Muslim and be loyal to Britain? I doubt it.
I see. Are there many gay men amongst Muslims?
There's a lot of men who do gay acts, but they're not gay, right? And right. So I have not personally known people, but I've known some things happened somewhere and stuff like that.
Mom, a serious question before we go any further.
Yeah.
If I was to lean over and suck your dick, would I be gay?
Well, in a way, that act would be gay, right? So,
but I'd be in the clear.
In a way, yeah, right? Because like if you made a habit of it,
This is, by the way, this is hypothetical. I'm not going to suck Momus's dick, nor do I want to.
But this is how they see it, right? Because what is being gay, right? Being gay is something that comes not in them. It's just generally being a homosexual is having the internal desire to be with the person of the same sex, right? It is inherent in you. Coming from, like, what if I told you on gunpoint, like, suck my dick? Would that make you gay? Or are you just preserving your life, right? So for them, what they think is like, because they have so much sexual frustration and stuff.
What about if a Muslim's just randomly sucking dicks without the gun to his head? What kind of life does he lead?
I think so.
Islam?
That is a habit then.
Yeah.
I would say like that person. I think so. To answer your question about like, are there many gays and stuff? By law of like proportionality, there would be, right? There would be gays, and they are gays.
And are they living in constant fear?
People who are actually gay, yeah, constantly. Because if they're found out, a lot worse things would be done to them, right? They will be raped and then killed, right? So the guy raping them would not be gay. So this is what I'm saying, right? Because they're giving a judgment, they're giving a punishment.
You don't subscribe to this bullshit.
No,
do you?
why would I? Like, yeah. No, it's because I think so. They have a lot of sexual frustrations, and now Islam has told them like if they shouldn't have sex with women who they're not married with, right? So they can't do that in a society where men are more like the male patriarch of the family is more powerful enough not to let their woman sleep around or anything like that. So what else would they do? And they don't have sex toys and stuff. I've suggested that's what should happen to those Islamic countries. Just go around on an airplane and just distribute sex toys. Maybe we'll see less extremism over there, right? So that's what they end up doing. They end up sucking each other's dicks and stuff like that, but they don't see it as a gay thing.
How do you see it?
Because I see it as fucking cowardice.
Get that dick out your mouth.
It's not even a matter of the dick, right, or the sucking. So it's a matter of it's wrong what you're doing, but you're still doing it. How can you say then how can you say you're Muslim when your own religion is telling you not to do it, right? It's a guna kabira. The biggest sin is a man touching another man's dick. Touching, right? You go to hell for that. There's no salvation from it. Absolutely none. So how are you justifying it in your head then, right? Because you're going to hell. So why not come out of the religion, right? Because you're already out of the religion. You're already going to hell. Why not come out of the religion? And if you're not gay, then just have sex with women if you want to have sex with women. Or have sex with men. Or I don't give a fuck, like whatever you want to do. So for me, it's cowardice. Because they're cowards. They don't want to come out of the religion. They know it doesn't make sense. They just want to please themselves and stuff. But they're still not going to do it because they're afraid like what will happen to them. Their family will ostracize them. They'll be left alone and stuff. So it's cowardice.
Yeah, that whole dick-sucking section was quite mind-blowing, but I'm glad we went there.
Yeah.
Shamima Begum, should she be allowed back in the UK?
No, and I think so. A lot of people like her need to be deported. A lot of them. Those who are born here as well. Especially those who are born here.
Because there is an argument to say that she was groomed by militant Islam as a child. I mean, for me, she needs to stay where she is because she's now a national threat. Yeah. It's a security breach.
Yeah.
But there are people that argue the fact, well, if she was groomed as she was a child, then she deserves to come back. I don't subscribe to that.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, do you think she should be allowed back in the UK?
No. There's an argument to say, okay, she was a child, she was groomed, blah, blah, whatever. So should she be allowed back? But really think, what is the future? What is her future? Is her future not producing more Islamists, potentially, right? This is something that I want people to think about all of Islam, right? Whether you're a moderate or stuff, right? So you could be a moderate Muslim, but there's no guarantee that your child will be a moderate Muslim. All they have to do is follow their religion properly. And they're no longer a moderate. So you have to work round the clock with the government, and the government has to work round the clock 24/7 to make sure that the moderate Muslims remain moderate, meaning bad Muslims. Right? Why accept this religion as a whole anyways. Why not just take the status away from this fake religion and say, we do no longer recognize this ideology as a religion. You are free to follow it, but that means we will not give you any exemptions, right? We will not give you any leeways. We will not allow things like halal food or whatever, like anything to do with your religion. You cannot have minaret mosques and stuff. You can have community centers, and that will be shared with the whole community and stuff like that as well. And if you don't like that, then you can go back to whichever country you want to be in, right? There's a lot of Islamic countries. So that the thing is, we focus on minor things when it happens. We waited for a Shamima Begum incident to happen, and in this case to happen that she wants to come back now and stuff, to start discussing it. But she's a symptom, right? She's a symptom of a huge problem. I'm interested in dealing with that problem, the core problem. There will be many symptoms. You can let her in. It won't even matter. There's already more jihadis that we can, muster anyways over here. Like, we have so many more jihadis than her.
What's your view on the terror watch list? I mean, the enormous amounts of Islamists that the government are watching, and they've got them under surveillance morning, noon and night. How do you perceive that? I mean, what are they still doing here, for example?
I just don't understand, like, what is the end point? Like, are they thinking those people are somehow going to see the light? They're going to stop being radicals? Because it's not as if, like, they're not even impeding their lives in any way. It's not even like as if those people are under house arrest. They're just on the watch list.
If you know someone is a terrorist, what's the point in watching them?
Yeah.
Why don't you just deal with them?
But now, you and I could be on that watch list for being far right.
You speak for yourself. I'm centre of right. No, I'm right of centre.
Not anymore. You're in the club now. But right, like Tommy Robinson would be on the terror watch list for them.
Right.
So the whole point is, the public needs to know what the hell is that watch list for? What are the parameters that they put people on that watch list? And why are they choosing not to act on those? Or are they actually acting, but just not telling people? Are they only acting with the easiest people on the terror watch list? Is this a reason why, Tommy gets all that shit and all the other people as well? Because it's easier to attack him than a Muslim, because the whole Muslim community will rise up. Whereas something happens to a white guy and the whole liberal community don't give a shit because it's a white guy. It's a white working class guy, right? So what is it? And how is it only remains at 40,000? Because that's pretty impressive. If for the past 10 years I've been hearing is 40,000 people on the watch list. How has that not grown? That must have grown, right? Or is it just a thing that they put out there? A point to divide people and stuff like, or distract people from certain narratives. Just don't know.
So you've lived in Pakistan and you've been a Muslim, so I think you're qualified to answer the next question. So it's been ascertained that there is a disproportionate amount of Pakistani men forming grooming gangs and raping young white British children. Disproportionate to the Pakistani population within the UK. That's now proven, and it can't be argued, and I can't be accused of anything for spewing facts. So the Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs, in your opinion, with your wisdom and experience, is there a religious or cultural aspect to these grooming gangs?
I say both, right? Because you don't see Saudi or Kuwaiti grooming gangs, right? But what you do see, what people actually don't see, is a rich Dubai people going on yachts and stuff like that, and they bring around like whores and stuff, prostitutes and stuff, and do horrible things to them, like really horrible things. So you could say that it's not just a cultural issue; it's a religious issue that gives them the right to be misogynist to that level, right? Where they don't even see women as human beings, they see them as property. And that is true, they do see them as part of property, right? Then it permeates in the culture. And with different people of different statuses and different in their life cycles, it would affect their culture differently, right? So a person who's uneducated like most Pakistanis are, and the people that we're getting as well, culturally uneducated, like they're culturally behind, right? They would act in those ways. Like a rich Dubai person would get that prostitute somewhere away and do horrible things to that woman, right? Away from public eye and stuff. But it's a religion, but obviously that prostitute will always be white or foreign, right? When it comes to Pakistanis, there is a huge problem within Pakistan of this, right? So it's not as if like they're just raping white girls. They're Pakistanis themselves as well, right? And so we have to see which, like, because Pakistan is not, sometimes people think Pakistan is one ethnicity, right? Pakistan is different ethnicities into one country. So there are 5 dominant ethnicities. There are different languages, different people, completely different ethnicity. It's not even like English and Scottish. It's even more if it's like English and French at times,
Right.
So they have different cultural values and they will grow up a bit differently. So the kind of Pakistanis that we're getting over here are mainly from Mirpur, those outer Kashmiri villages, which have a Punjabi strain to them, and Punjabis. 90 to 95% of the Pakistanis in UK have some Punjabi link. That's why they speak Punjabi as their first language rather than Urdu, or English would be their third language then.
Okay, so in the UK, why are they targeting predominantly white British young girls?
It's easier to make excuses for, right, within their circles and stuff. It's easier to convince, right? So if they were raping Pakistani girls or Asian or Muslim girls and stuff, then there would be a lot more Muslims who would go against them and stop them, right? Even beat them up or whatever, take them to the police and stuff. And they won't be able to convince their brothers and their cousins to do that, right? It would be one mentally ill person who would be doing it. So when it comes to the white woman, now everyone in their group is frustrated. They're not getting any because they're not rich, right? They're not educated. They're not culturally in with the people. Nobody wants to hang out with them and stuff, but they're horny as fuck, right? So they would create this thing about, we're doing it for Islam and we're conquering over here, so we can justify in our head that we are a conquering force and we are at war with them, so we can take them as sex slaves, right? Islam, in a way, is not really justifying that act, but Islam has justified acts before because of what Muhammad has done during the wartime. And then in their head, they can explain, okay, we are at constant war with the West because they're against us. So that means all wartime things go. So that's why they're attacking mainly. Actually, all of them would be non-Muslim. They might not all of them be, there was, I think, some Sikh girls as well and stuff, but again, they're non-Muslim, right? So that's why it's easy to create that myth and convince. There are books of people like, his cousin and dad and like what's disgusting, like the whole family doing it. But that's the only way they can justify it. And even then, you see that the women as well in their own community justifying it and not really seeing that their kid has done something bad, because they would make excuses like, white women are slags anyways and stuff like that.
What is the actual age of consent in Islam?
If you're going by Muhammad, it's 9 years old. I think so. It's just as soon as a girl hits puberty, she's fair game for them.
Because this is a big debate people have. They say that, all them years ago, it was different back then. And so just you confirm as an ex-Muslim, how old was Muhammad? How old was Aisha? They married, then they consummated the marriage 3 years later. To my knowledge, it was 6 when they got married, 9 when the marriage was consummated, and he was in his 50s.
Yeah. So I think he was around 55 or something. And she was 6 years old when he married her. And then he consummated the marriage at 9 years old. There's nothing to say that he didn't have his way with her. Maybe not consummated the marriage, but any other sexual acts and stuff. If you're going to have sex with 9-year-old, you're more likely that you would be having sex with 6-year-old as well. Who knows, right? He's a prophet. Who's going to argue with him? And plus, I've not heard of many 9 years old having their first period anyways. So if they're saying she had a period at 9 years old, maybe it's just so disgusting even to think about it. But the thing is, people say that, oh, it was different back in those days.
Yeah, why do
it
they...
wasn't.
No, when I hear people argue that it was different back then, I'm thinking, well, actually, it was different back then. And for me, it makes it worse because life expectancy was a lot shorter all them thousands of years ago. So the gulf is even bigger between a 9-year-old and a 55-year-old.
Yeah.
So how can that ever be acceptable?
Exactly. That would never have happened.
Why are they justifying it?
Because he's done it. He's done it. It's recorded.
So he can do no wrong, period.
If he does wrong, then Islam is not true. The whole of Islam depends on him narrating the word of God as revealed to him by Gabriel, right? If he's wrong, then the whole of the religion is wrong, right? They wish he hadn't done that. It would be a lot easier for them. But this is how devils are revealed. This is how false prophets are revealed, because they can't help themselves, can they? He already had wives, right? He had like 4 whatever wives at that time when he married that 6-year-old girl. Why did he needed to do it? Why don't people ask that? Why did he needed to marry a 6-year-old? What was the point? He had the pick of the litter. He could marry anyone. The only reason why he would marry it is because he was a sexually depraved person. There was no other reason. So, and it wasn't the norm at that time, because then you would hear all the companions of the Prophet marrying children, right? There is no report of any of the companions of the Prophet marrying a young girl. None of the reports. How odd is that? That you are supposed to follow in the steps of the Prophet. Yeah, you're supposed to follow the Sunnah. Yet none of his companions ever followed in that steps. That means it wasn't the norm.
I've always wondered to myself, why don't moderate good Muslims just say, when confronted with that story, rather than say, oh, it was different back then, and, you know, once a girl turns into a woman by having her first period, why don't they just say, do you know what? I'm Muslim. Muhammad was almost perfect, but with that, I can't get on board with that. Why do they just not say that?
The whole religion falls apart. And you're a munafiq if you say that. You're worse than a munafiq even, and you will be put to death. Because you're saying, like, this is the thing, like, you can't criticize the leader, right? Say he's the day leader, and you can't criticize him. The communists, that's why they play that. You can't criticize Stalin, you'll be dead. Because if Stalin is wrong, the whole thing falls apart, right? So, but it's different in communism because it's a political thing, and you can have a different Stalin then, right? And that person can kill him, and that's fine. In religion, he's the last prophet, right, to Islam. If he said this wrong, then what else did he say wrong? How come he's the perfect man then? He's supposed to be the perfect man, and you're supposed to follow his footsteps.
Are you supposed to emulate him?
Exactly.
Is that actually what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, everything that he has done, you do, and you get more, sawab, more from the God, right? And you're more likely to go to heaven if you follow in his footsteps.
And what do Muslims believe happens when they go to heaven? What's all this virgin talk? Is it true?
Yeah, like I think it's explained very much in detail that the things that you get in heaven are very much detailed, right? So it sort of seems like a business bargaining chip. Hey, if you do this to you, we'll give you 70 virgins, right? We'll give you there will be rivers of milk, right? And there will be this, and so idea of Switzerland and with a lot of whores, basically, So God is bargaining with a man, right? This is why I've always said it's a false ideology, because before Muhammad introduced this idea of 70 virgins after you die as a martyr, especially as a martyr, right? He only had 300 followers, less than 300 followers, barely any, right? The moment that he introduced that idea, his numbers started growing. Right, so he had to entice people, and he got all the criminals and that sort of thing in his regime. So that idea of the heaven is true in their sense. It is a materialistic religion. If it was a spiritual religion, like Christianity is, God would not need to entice you. Your reward is being in his presence. That's your reward. You don't need to entice a Christian with virgins or anything. Not even a gold watch, nothing. Like, he doesn't care. He gets to, go through the golden gates and be with God. So it's deprived of spirituality completely.
So was it Muhammad's idea and instruction that women cover themselves with the burqa? And why?
Everything in Islam is his instruction, right? It's very interesting. If you read Quran, right, obviously it's not in the chronological order, right? But before every surah, sometimes they tell you, if you read the right Quran, that what happened, the events that because of which this surah came in. And you can see, like, there's always a justification. So when he wanted to marry his stepson's wife or something like that, or something of that sort, when he wanted to marry her, he, lo and behold, a surah came in, right? A revelation came in, which allowed him to do that. Which said, like, if a man, like, divorces his wife, blah, blah, stuff like that, then his father can marry her, like, whatever. Like, the whole surah came in, right? So everything in Quran is a justification of his mental disorder, basically. So he's just justifying every single time.
So how would you describe the Prophet Muhammad? How would you summarize him?
I would say he was a clever guy. He was mentally disturbed to a lot, he was a dictator, sort of mentally disturbed, warmonger, and sexually depraved person. Because I have never heard of a good religious leader wanting to fuck that many women, right? It's like, if you're a prophet, you don't even care about such things, because those are earthly things, right? A Viking would think like that. And Vikings did used to think like that, right? Everything that the Muslims do, you can just sort of see them, they have a similarity. They have, like, a warrior sort of mentality.
So the fact that you've left Islam and the fact that you're willing to speak as freely and openly and criticize the religion and their prophet, do you still feel you're a target? Do you live in any kind of fear?
Yeah, I mean, when I was leaving Pakistan, when I had the choice of leaving Pakistan, I didn't want to go and seek asylum, because that's a defeat. Like, in my head, that's a defeat. I was like, no, I'll choose places depending on where I actually want to go, right? Because if I want, like, because a lot of people have said, there's some people who said online that I came here as an asylum seeker and I put that I'm from Yugoslavia on my document papers. It's like, it was so imaginative that I started suspecting, did I? But I wanted to come over here because I love Britain, right? I didn't come over here because a lot of people have said as well, I'm like for money and stuff. What money? In 2010, I came in 2010. England was poor as fuck and still is. It's not that economically well over here. If I wanted to earn money, I would have gone to America, right? I came over here because I like Britain and I knew that Britain has a history of protecting free speech.
We did.
Exactly. And now I'm finding out that all those people who are telling me you should go to America 15 years ago might have had a point. Even though I wanted to come over here because I wanted to be a part of something. I wanted to feel a kind of belonging somewhere. I've had a nomadic life all my life. Kuwait didn't feel like home. Pakistan didn't feel like home. Over here is the only place that feels like home, right? So yes, now there are threats to my life, which I wouldn't have imagined before.
Right.
Because before I was like, okay, there might have been, but the police will handle with it. Or the law will be in my favor and the police will handle with it. But since the pandemic is just going downhill more and more, it's even before that. But since pandemic, it's even more now, that corruption in the police and our legal system. Now I'm feeling like if something happens to me, the police will find a way to justify it. The police will put out statements. Someone kills me, a Muslim nutter kills me. Police will put out a statement. It's like, it's not all Muslims. This guy had a mental health issue and stuff. We should keep the community together. That will be my story. I'm dead. My family is crying. The story will be, let's not get angry at the Muslims. And that pisses me off.
And do you think one day you could be murdered?
Anyone could be. In this country, when the law is not the law, when you have little, like, what can I say, like when you have little pussy like police officers on the streets who can't even, handle anything, how can you expect, if an Islamist come on our high streets, any of the high streets, right? Because we still live like normal, like we should, just going on and stuff. We don't have like bodyguards going with us all the time and, snipers staking out the place. We're just going like, having a drink or whatever. If a bunch of Islamists come around, even if the police officers are there, are they capable of doing anything? Nothing. They can't do anything. They can't protect us. And we are not given the tools to protect ourselves. We can't even have guns, or not even guns. We can't even have anything, right?
Yeah.
But they can.
Yeah, no, I share your frustration with the British police, that's for sure, and whoever's calling the shots. But final question, because it seems like we've just sat here and slammed Islam, but you have got genuine concerns. But to end it on a positive note, because I've got good Muslim friends, and actually sometimes when I'm doing like a motivational rant, my mate will call me up and he'll say, "You actually sound like a good Muslim." And we've obviously had chats about my views on, but it's the radical egg that I'm concerned about. And it's just nice. Well, it's not nice. It's just, you're kind of concrete in what I think that there's more radical in it than I actually think there is. Yeah. So as a positive, what message would you give to any good Muslim that's watching or listening?
Well, first of all, I won't say they're good Muslims. I'll say they're good people.
Okay.
They're bad Muslims. That's why they're good people. They're choosing to ignore Islam, right? If they didn't ignore Islam, they wouldn't be good people.
Momus, what message would you give to bad Muslims watching?
The bad Muslims, right? Leave Islam, turn to Christianity. If you want a faith, turn to Christianity. It's truer than whatever bullshit your prophet gave you. Your prophet is a false prophet. There's nothing good that can come out of a corrupted code. The code is corrupt. No matter how many things you put on top of it to fix that code, it will always have issues. It's a bad seed problem that Bible talks about itself, right? You can make so many excuses. You can put so many parameters around it. Oh, we won't believe in this thing that the prophet said, or that thing that the prophet said. But the generation after you might revert back, right? So why are we waiting for this time bomb? Why is every single bad Muslim, who is a good person, waiting for this time bomb of their life? Why are they living in this way where they have to gaslight themselves every day to say their prophet was a good prophet? They have to investigate themselves. They have to reflect. Are you going to say that you are associated with a religion whose prophet had sex with a 9-year-old girl, right? Who murdered a whole tribe of Jews, right? Just to get that woman, right? The Jewish woman, and had his way with her, like took her away from, killed her husband, and then had sex with her same day, right? Just to take her as sex slaves. Are you able to say that you are part of a good religion where your prophet is doing those things, having sex slaves, having multiple wives and stuff, so much interested in the materialistic things, doing 85 bloody wars, campaigns in 10 years? If you're okay with associating with that person, then why are they feeling aggrieved when we're criticizing them then, But I would say, have some balls, have some courage to leave Islam. I do not give a shit anymore about these good Muslims in that sense, moderate Muslims. I just don't give a shit about them. I don't give a shit.
I feel that from you.
Yeah, because they're cowards, right? Because they're perpetuating this problem in the society, in the whole world. Because of them, under their umbrella are where the radicals live. Out of their seed comes the radicals, right? Like I said, if you're a moderate Muslim, your friends are moderate Muslim, there is no guarantee their kids or their grandkids will be moderate as well, no matter how much nurture they give them.
I'd never even thought about that.
Exactly. So why do the British people hate their own so much that they're willing to sacrifice their future for these foreigners?
It's pretty mental. Momus, I hope this interview doesn't get you killed. thank you for coming on and letting rip. I'll be keeping an eye on you. And people watching this, if you've enjoyed it, you can find Momus where?
TheWorldOfMomus.com is my Substack. The World of Momus is my Twitter. And The World of Momus is my Instagram. And The World of Momus is my YouTube as well.
Okay, and you're an author of a couple of books as well, which people can find if they want to.
Yeah, I write fiction and stuff like that. And even my podcast is about history and mythology mainly. I don't actually talk about Islam as much, although I'm writing a book right now on Islam. So that will be interesting, hopefully.
Brilliant. And if you've got this far into the interview and you enjoy the guests that I bring on and the conversations that I have with people that the mainstream would never, ever platform in a million years, then please remember to like and subscribe to the channel, because the bigger the platform, the better the guest. Momus, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
And good health. Cheers, mate.
Yeah. Cheers, mate.